I say this to say that there is goals in everything. And though it may be uncomfortable, though it may not look like what you thought it would look like, realize that everything has a purpose. And if you don't take advantage of those moments, in those moments, you will not be prepared for where you're trying to get. You will not be prepared for the places you want to go. You will not be prepared for the places that are in store for you. So it's important that you take advantage of where you are and grow in everything you do. Learn to grow in everything you do, because you may not ever get what you plan to get, but what you get in life may be exactly what you need for you. What's going on? I wanted to make a quick video real quick today and talk about, goals and the power of goals. And for that person who feels they don't know how to make goals anymore, or they don't have any goals in the moment, I want to encourage you. I want to take you back a little bit to a time that you've been on a team, a club, in a classroom, maybe while you were learning to get your driver's license, in a band, these different things that you could be a part of. And individually, maybe you're a gamer, or something like that. And, you want to hit a certain level. I want to take you back to those moments so that we can really just meditate on the process of that, right? So let's take it into perspective. For me, I was an athlete. I was a part of the band. And I realized something early on is that, in the band and these sports competitions, that before the actual meet, before the actual concert, I had to show up to practice every single day. And I knew that early on, I wasn't ready for the track meet day or the band competition. I wasn't ready, but I knew that just in showing up, that I would be prepared for that competition or that game, right? And so I realized that it was so many more hours put forth into the practice than it was in the actual show. And I realized that I was so good in the game and the meet and the band competition because I had put in all these hours meeting with the coach, meeting with my peers, and playing with one another so that we could get better at the instrument, right? And I realized that early on that I hadn't made actual goals that were written down or visual, but I had goals in the process, because I knew that in the end, I didn't want to be someone who had a solo in the band competition and I couldn't fulfill the expectation that I had, or I wasn't prepared for that moment, or someone who had a track meet, but I had put no practice for it. And now I can't even compete at the level that I want to compete in comes nationals, right? And so I knew early on that I had goals, though I didn't write them down. So I want to reiterate these stories, these scenarios to help you to see that though you may not have goals physically written down, though you may not have goals that are visual, you have goals through your process, right? And I say this to say this because I realized that working at McDonald's as a college dropout was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because I learned management skills. I learned how to do inventory. I did truck shipments. I did cashier, how to learn how to systems. I learned how to run a store. I learned all these things while working at McDonald's, while everybody else was like, man, this dude dropped out of school. He working at McDonald's. He ain't even in school no more. Like what? He didn't just fell out. He done fell out. But I realized that through that process, that though I had did a step backwards in the eyes of the natural man, though I did a step backwards, it was everything that I needed. Because without McDonald's, I wouldn't be business minded. I wouldn't know everything that's involved with a business, everything that the backstory of McDonald's and what managers do and things like that, and how to be driven to become a manager, how to be driven to win that hour, right? So we had these hours that we had to make a certain amount of money, and suggestive sale and these different types of things, and quality and just all these things we had to stay on top of. And so I realized that even in that stage, I had goals that I was pushing forward towards that was bettering me for where I am today. And so I say this to encourage you that no matter where you find yourself, realize that there are goals in everything that you do, right? I'm not where I want to be today, but right now what I'm doing is preparing me for that, right? Everything that you're doing right now, though it's not what you want to do, is preparing you for what you want to do. You want to be a doctor, right? But you have no patience. Okay, you're working at McDonald's. Well, let McDonald's teach you patience, right? Wherever you are, we can find something to grow in there. There's goals in everything that we do. I don't care if you're writing. You may not even be able to write a book yet. All you can do is 2 pages, but the more that you write, you realize, man, I'm writing 10 pages like it's nothing. You may not be the best reader. You can't even pick up a book and read the first chapter, but that may be your goal, reading the first chapter of a book. Before you know it, you finishing a book, and you're like, man, you're not used to not be able to read a book. I realized that I grew in reading when I stopped telling people I can't read. When I was telling people I couldn't read, I had a fear to pick up a book. I couldn't even start reading. Every time I read, I had this fear, this anxiety, especially, I'll never forget in high school and popcorn reading that I used to be so nervous. Like I would look at people and I'd be like, look, you better not pick me. When it comes to this popcorn reading, it got to the point where the teacher just had to call me and be like, Josh, you haven't read. You need to read. And at that point, I'm sweating. I'm hot. My armpits sweating. I'm nervous. So to the point to where it was time for me to read, I couldn't even read because all these thoughts in my head that I couldn't do it was already there. And so I say this to say that there is goals in everything. And though it may be uncomfortable, though it may not look like what you thought it would look like, realize that everything has a purpose. And if you don't take advantage of those moments, in those moments, you will not be prepared for where you're trying to get. You will not be prepared for the places you want to go. You will not be prepared for the places that are in store for you. So it's important that you take advantage of where you are and grow in everything you do. Learn to grow in everything you do, because you may not ever get what you plan to get, but what you get in life may be exactly what you need for you. Bless up and Father.